This program is brought to you by Community Trust Bank, Medical City, and the Neely School of Business at TCU. Welcome to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. Now, here's your host, Siobhan Palmer.
Hey, welcome back everybody to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. Continue our conversation today with Dr. Eric Mendeloff. He is the Director of Congenital Heart Surgery here at Medical City Children's Hospital. We're here with our co-host Asher, one of Dr. Mendeloff's patients, and his lovely mom, Amy. Dr. Mendeloff, Amy, how has this FACT program impacted not only your son's healing process, but also you and your families, would you say?
Well, I think Amy's probably the best to comment on that, because I know what we want to achieve with the FACT program. I know what our goals are, but whether or not we're actually attaining those goals, the real testament to that is obviously the outcomes of the children and how their families feel when they're here. So, Amy, how do you feel about the care Asher has received and your integration into the process? Has it been successful for you? What have you liked about it or not liked about it?
I think it's been great. I mean, the whole process before he was born, getting to know the people that we were going to be dealing with and kind of getting everything explained in detail that we could understand. And then as he had his surgery, just everybody, the nurses, of course you, Dr. Mendeloff, and then getting to be here with him is very important. And having everything available that we need. People have just been very
Just from an emotional tie too, even at these young ages, he knows his mom's here and it's comforting for you to be here as well. That's incredible. Dr. Mendeloff, talk about your team here. Quite remarkable group and how they're broken, what the various functions are in terms of this whole program. Well,
we have a multidisciplinary conference that is scheduled on a regular basis where all the specialists come, fetal echocardiography, our specialist cardiologists, pediatric general surgeons, pediatric neurosurgery, genetics, you name it, neonatologists. All the people that are involved in this come to these meetings so that we can discuss the patients that are going to be delivered over the next couple months and put an action plan together. Right. And then, obviously the whole high-risk OB that's also here as well, and they're very integrated, do a great job of covering this, covering deliveries 24/7, 365 days a week. Once the babies are delivered, they go to the neonatal intensive care unit where they have their initial stabilization. Obviously, we then, plan their operation. I sit down with the families. I frequently have met with the families in fetal consultation, but we pretty much sit down and go over everything again, because it's sort of, once it's here, it's immediacy. It's nice to go through everything again and make sure that all mom and dad's questions have been answered.
Communication is critical.
Right. Yeah. And then after our big operation, they come back here. This is a devoted congenital heart surgery unit, so that all the patients in this unit, if they haven't had congenital heart surgery, they have an important congenital heart problem, and we have specialized intensive care unit doctors here that are not just focused on pediatric intensive care, but pediatric cardiac care as well. So they all have a sort of double specialization, so to speak. And then, of course, our nurses as well. They've all been specially trained to take care of these types of babies who have very, very different physiology than other healthy newborns.
Well, I was going to ask you too, surgery is traumatic, so how does the recovery time for somebody this little, vice an adult or, a teenager, what is, it's very different.
Yeah, it is different. It's a great question. If you just say, well, you have a heart surgery, how quickly do you go home from the hospital? For a little guy like this who's got some other problems, meaning the heart surgery was one hurdle, and then dealing with his intestines and getting him to feed is the second problem. So he is here in the hospital for longer than an adult, for instance, that had heart surgery. But he never got to learn how to feed before surgery. So, that's something that, as a matter of fact, that's sort of, we're on the home stretch with that right now. So his hospitalization would be longer than an adult who has heart surgery. On the other hand, I would say that his rehabilitation potential far exceeds that of many, if not most adults. He has an entire lifetime ahead of him and has good kidneys, good lungs, good liver, all the other organs, doesn't have what we call comorbid diseases, diabetes, hypertension, history of smoking.
Yep.
So he's got a whole lifetime ahead of him, and of course that's the great thrill in being able to do this for all of us, is being able to send him home with his beautiful family, and have them be able to look forward to all of that.
Well, I know you were recruited from another university to Medical City Children's Hospital, and I'm always curious. I mean, you're at the upper echelon and considered an expert, a world-renowned expert in this area. What made you want to go into this area of medicine?
Well, actually, a lot of the things we're talking about, is I wasn't born knowing I wanted to do congenital heart surgery, but I ultimately my dad,
baseball player, congenital heart surgery.
The truth of the matter, my dad was a physician, and he was a big influence on my life. I very much was enamored with his investment in his patients and his
What type
dedication.
of medicine was he involved in?
He actually did vascular surgery.
Okay.
And
wow.
So he was a really strong influence on my life, both not with respect to the surgery aspect of it, but really his approach to being a physician and taking care of patients. And I saw how much his interactions with his patients and their families meant to him, and that made a big impression on me as a kid when I used to go make rounds with him. But ultimately, in medical school, I found that I loved pediatrics and I loved surgery. I consider surgery an art form.
Yes.
And then as time went on, I became more enamored with the heart and the lungs. I thought the whole human body is amazing, but the heart and lungs are just, incredible to me. And then you realize, as you get to know more and more about it, the number of congenital heart defects that can happen, that can occur, are, it's unbelievable. It's staggering. And so all those things put together, it made for a career where I could have a great deal of gratification from the things that we were just talking about trying to do everything I can to influence his life so he can go home and be with his loving family and have a full life ahead of him.
Well, I have a distinct feeling Asher is going to be a superstar here. We're going to be hearing from Mr. Asher here in the next few years. Well, Dr. Eric Mendeloff and Amy and my co-host Asher, you've been very quiet, but I like that. It's been an absolute honor. Dr. Mendeloff, for people to get a hold of you or your team, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Well, my office at the Congenital Heart Program here at Medical City Children's Hospital is easy, and also, you can get a hold of the head of the FACT program. Karen Murray is here, and
fantastic lady. Yeah.
So so we've got and of course all of our great cardiologists as well, who are really make these diagnoses. Right. We all have contact numbers for all of them. But if you just call Medical City Children's Hospital, we'll get you plugged in. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, Doctor, it's a pleasure. Amy, thank you so much for letting us share your beautiful son for this interview.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Siobhan Palmer with Platforms, a life-lifting news program for women. We'll be back in a moment.